Everybody, today I have a project that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and that involves putting a 350Z diff into an S13 subframe. Now, you might ask, why don't you just use an S14 subframe? Well, the thing here is, S14 subframes are becoming really hard to get, and if you do find them, they are outrageously expensive. So if you have an S13, you already have the S13 subframe, so why not go ahead and modify it to fit the 350Z diff? And here I am, going to try it. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but stay tuned. Now, I do have an S14 subframe, but I do not want to use it on my other car. I want to use it on this car eventually. This is going to be my comp car, but until then, I'm going to use the S13 subframe from this to use on the other car, that one right there, and use it to build so that car is never down, because I still want to have fun. I still want to go driving, but I just don't know how long this project's going to take. So here we go. Let's get to it. Sorry about the lighting back here in this back part of the garage, but already started off by taking the shocks off of both sides, and I'm going to undo the 4 bolts that hold the rear K-member on and drop it down with 2 jacks, and we're going to pull it out and get it ready for cleanup. I cannot wait until I get a new cutting torch. And a new impact. And it's been so long since I've worked on a stock S13 that I forgot that these brackets were on the front, underneath the K-member nut. Go right there. So, with all the brackets taken off and all the nuts taken off, I can finally lower the subframe down and scoot it out from underneath the car and start working on it. So with the S13 subframe removed, I'm able to see what it's going to take to put this 350Z diff into the subframe. And then one of the things I've noticed is that, for one, the bolt holes are not as wide as a 350Z diff. So I think the S13 one's coming about right here. So conversion bushings are needed. I want to have those ordered from GK Tech. They'll work great. But since this ear is so much wider than an S13 or an S14, especially on an S13, it's so short here compared to an S14. So this portion right here is going to need to be cut, notched, boxed in to be able to clear the ears. Now, I have seen some people attempt to shave down the edge at an angle. I don't like that idea. We're not going to do that. I'm just going to notch this out, plate it, call it good. There's going to be more modifications needed to raise this up for pinion angle. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But the other major thing to get this diff to fit on this subframe are the 4 holes for the rear cover. And notice this one does not have the 4 mounting locations on the back like an S13 does. So now you can use the S13 cover on this, but you're going to lose the ears for your speed sensors on your electro wheel. And now my car has a 350Z CD009 transmission, and I lost my speed sensor when I went from a 5-speed to the 6-speed. So this is going to be able to give me my speed sensor back to have a speedometer. Also, my other plans are to clean up everything. I'm going to have the subframe completely sandblasted and repainted to match the blue on my car. Get all the rust off the diff, clean it up, make it nice and pretty. Same thing with the axles. I don't even know if I'm going to use those axles. I might buy brand new ones so they look nice and clean. I'm going to put subframe risers on it so I don't have to take the ones out of that car. So yeah, I don't have too much more to go until I actually get started on this. I got to order my diff bushings from GK Tech, the offset ones, to match the S13, and we should be good to go to start on this project. It's going to make it real easy when I go to put this diff in here to figure out how far down my stubs are going to need to be cut to allow the axles to not be in a bind. And that's the one thing about S13, was why nobody can do it, because the S13 is too short from wheelbase to, side to side. So I'm going to send these stubs off to Villains, and they're going to knock them down. The one thing about 350Z axles is they're relatively the same size as S14 in lengthwise. And I know that S14 and S13 axles, they're a 9mm difference per side. So I think we're going to need to knock off probably 9mm is what the measurements are going to have to be. I'm going to tell Villains to put on their mill and knock it down. And then that will allow the diff to be shorter to allow the 350Z diffs or axles to be used on this S13 without being in a bind. And that's the whole reason nobody ever does S13. Also, the other reason nobody ever goes S13 is because S14 is so superior with the anti-squat, and I have that covered with these GK Tech lower control arm relocation mounts, and they will install underneath here, and it will allow the control arm to be mounted lower here. So instead of being at an angle, it'll now be straight and more parallel with the road for the anti-squat, and you gain way more grip than an S13 ever could, which would be equivalent to an S14. So I got that covered. If this content, like and subscribe, and don't forget to click that notification so whenever I have an